Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this thing on?
No, I turned it off, sorry.
Okay, how do you turn it on? Just push?
You just push straight up.
Up?
Uh-huh.
Hello? Somebody push it up for me. I'm not very technically.
There's like,
Oh, I was pushing the wrong side.
There we go.
you were pushing the battery case.
There we go.
I was pushing the battery case. Well, okay. Well, my lesson today is on a somewhat heavy subject for a lot of us. And so I wanted to begin with a story that I heard recently. I love animals. I'm an animal fan. So 2 ducks and a frog developed a friendship. When their pond dried up, the ducks they knew that they could easily fly to another location. But what of the frog? Finally, they decided to fly with a stick between their 2 bills and with the frog holding onto the stick with its mouth. Well, all went well until a man looked up and saw them in the sky. What a clever idea, said the man. I wonder who thought of that. I did, said the frog. Okay, you got it. That's a little bit about ego. Okay, so now we're going to be ready to get into something a little bit more serious, and this is the importance of forgiveness. I just want to ask if any of you have ever said this, and I know I've said it and thought it, and I know a lot of people who do. Somebody has really hurt my feelings. I hate how he or she treated me, and every time I think about it, I just get sick. I can't bear to see this person or hear about them. It just brings back so many bad feelings. I hate how this makes me feel. I can never forgive him or her or them. Anybody ever felt those things? Yeah, well, you know what hatred does? Hatred's like a scab. Have you ever had a scab and you just can't help picking at it? And the more you pick at it, the worse it gets. Well, that's what hatred's like. But truth be told, at one time or another, everybody has been through a situation that has made them feel like this. Feelings of being put down or disconnected or betrayed. And so I think that all of us, at some time in our lives, have had trouble letting go or forgiving. Few people seem to realize, though, the terrible effects and consequences of unforgiveness, because it's really hard to forgive sometimes. In fact, sometimes I don't even want to forgive. I don't know if anybody out there, but they don't deserve to be forgiven, so I just don't want to do it. But I realize now, in my length of years, that the only one who's really paying the price of unforgiveness is the person who is not forgiving. I remember one time talking to somebody who said they couldn't believe it, but they had been so angry at this person for so many years. Every time they thought about them, it just brought up all those feelings. Finally, they were able to come to that place of knowing they had to forgive, and they had the opportunity to do it in person. And so they went to this person to let them know that they were letting bygones be bygones and they were forgiving them, and the person didn't remember it ever happening. Didn't even know it had happened. So that person spent years festering with all this. One of my favorite writers is Emmett Fox. Do you know Emmett Fox? Sermon on the Mount. He wrote, he has a book called Around the World with Emmett Fox, and it's a reading for every single day of the year, and I love it. And this one is called Freedom and Forgiveness, and he quoted from Matthew chapter 6, verse 14. If ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. So he goes on to say something interesting, and it's something to think about. Setting others free means setting yourself free, because resentment is really a form of attachment. It is a cosmic truth that it takes 2 to make a prisoner and a jailer. There's no such thing as being a prisoner of one's own account. When you hold resentment against anyone, you are bound to that person by a mental chain. You are tied by a cosmic tie to the thing that you hate. The one person, perhaps in the whole world, whom you most dislike is the very one to whom you are attaching yourself by a hook that is stronger than steel. Is this what you wish? Is this the condition in which you desire to go through life? Remember, you belong to the thing with which you are linked in thought, and at some time or other, if that tie endures, the object of your resentment will be drawn again into your life, perhaps might cut all such ties and make it clear that you need to do an act of forgiveness. You must lose him and let him go. By forgiveness, you set yourself free, you save your soul, and because of the law of love, you also save their soul. So what he's talking about is the fact that, just what we talked about earlier, that resentment and anger hurts the person to which is holding on to that instead. And so to live a happy and fruitful life, it's important that we have to do a mental house cleaning sometimes and figure out if there's any unresolved stuff in you that is holding you back from experiencing life as greatly as you can. So that's what I want to talk to you about this morning, how to rid yourself of anything that is holding you back from experiencing your highest level of being. And the best news is that you aren't alone in doing this. Because I've got some really good news for you. There is a power within you that can lift your life to its highest level. It can change illness into health. It can bring peace amid turmoil. It can bring success out of failure and victory out of defeat. It can bring happiness and companionship out of loneliness. And it will respond to you because its power is within you. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. Frederick Bales wrote that sometime in the early last century. He was one of the metaphysicians who finally came to the realization that there is an all-pervasiveness of God rather than God just being out there. God is also within here. And that has become the awareness of so many of us in the New Thought movement, that everything that is created in this material world is created out of divine energy. That's all there is. And that each of us has within us the allness of God, not a spark of God. I've heard that saying we have a divine spark. We have the divine, the allness of the divine within us. Because we know there's only one power, there's only one presence, there's only one intelligence, there's only one life in this universe and in our lives. Which means we're never alone. God, the omnipotent source of life, is guiding, directing, and inspiring you. Sometimes, though, we aren't aware of this. It reminds me of a story that I heard years ago. I don't know if you know what grizzly bears look like, but a male grizzly can stand way over 7 feet tall and is very, very, very unfriendly. Let's just put it that way. Grizzly bears are not friendly. But anyways, years ago, there was a mother grizzly with 2 cubs, and she was up in the hills, and they were getting berries. They were gathering berries. One of the cubs got lost because he got so interested in his berries and eating the berries that he just didn't keep track of where his mother and his brother were. So all at once he realized he was lost, and he started looking for them. And he was starting to panic inside because he had no idea where they were. And then he heard some rustling behind him. So he turned around and he looked, thinking, Mom. And instead it was this big mountain lion. And the mountain lion was hungry. The mountain lion was very, very, very intent upon this poor little cub. Now he was a little guy and he wasn't very brave. And he knew that he was in trouble because the lion could run way faster than he could. And the lion looked pretty hungry. And so he just stood there staring at this lion in fear. And the lion started to creep towards him. And so instinct kicked in and he stood up on his back legs, all 2 feet of him, and put his paws up in the air and his nails out. I guess they're called nails. And he growled. This little guy's growling, and the mountain lion laughed and just kept coming. And the little thing did it again, growled. And all of a sudden the lion stood up, turned around, and took off like a flash. And the little bear was so happy. Look what I did, he said to himself. And then he turned around and looked, and there was Mom, standing behind him, all 6 or 7 feet of her with her arms out like this. Now, he didn't know that he was being protected. And I think the moral of this story is never get away from Mama. Never. But I think the other moral is that to realize that all of us have a divine grizzly bear that is guiding us. Do you remember when you were children how, at least I did, I had a guardian angel. How many of us were taught about guardian angels? In fact, we used to have a little prayer. Guardian angel, remember my guardian dear? Guiding and directing and inspiring. Well, I kind of think these days we need a guardian grizzly. We really do. Need a guardian grizzly. Somebody back there is covering our back and is allowing us to experience the courage that we have innately within us. And so living in the flow is learning how to forgive and let go. But we can't forgive sometimes. It's hard. Have anybody, I mean, I'm not the only one here, I'm sure, who's had problems forgiving somebody. All right, I know you don't want to admit it, but we need to recognize that with God all things are possible. And when you see God as this amazing energy of love behind you and everything you do, you know that you can do it. So I was looking at 3 steps to forgiveness, because I think it's important not just to talk about it, but to figure out how to do it. How to do it. The first one is to acknowledge to yourself that by holding on to past hurts and resentments that we're only hurting ourselves. And also to acknowledge that sometimes it's almost humanly impossible to forgive, or so we think. The second step is realizing that there's a power greater than ourselves, God the good, omnipotent, that can lift our lives to its highest level. A power greater than ourselves that is within us. There's a quote in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that I want to share with you, because it's important to know that in recovery, people that are coming into recovery with an addiction, a lot of them have trouble with God. They've had bad experiences. They don't believe in God. They have trouble with it. And so the founder of AA, Bill Wilson, knew this, and he wrote this. He said, we had to find a power by which we could live. And it had to be a power greater than ourselves. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. What he's saying is that you don't have to understand it. It's simply to acknowledge or have a willingness to allow this power into your life. And the third step is to make a decision to do what is necessary to allow God in to empower us in whatever way we need. There's a shortcut to those 3 steps that I love. The first is, I can't. The second is, God can. And the third is, I think I'll let him. I can't, God can. I think I'll let him. So are you ready for an experiment? Experiment in letting go? Because I'm going to lead you through a forgiveness meditation. This was developed by Stephen Levine, who's a Buddhist, an author and practitioner. I've always loved it. I mean, I've used it many times in my life. And it may not be easy for you to do what is being suggested to do in this exercise, but don't forget the Mother Grizzly that is watching and is letting you do things that you're afraid to do. know when I was doing this lesson and looking again at this meditation, it made me realize that there was somebody in my life over the past 3 years that I have had trouble forgiving. And so I'm creating this and putting it down on paper, and I'm thinking, but I don't want to. I don't want to. No, not yet. I'm not ready. Not ready to forgive that person. So I took a breath and I listened to what I was saying. The good stuff I was saying. I don't listen to the bad stuff very much anymore. And I thought, okay, just give it a try. It's an experiment. Let's see how we can do this. And so I want to begin, before we get into this, there's a little chant. It's just, be still and know that I am God. Those of you who've been at Unity Village know that the Charles Fillmore Chapel has a little annex where you can go in and meditate. And there's a big sign in the front saying, be still and know that I am God. Be still. So just close your eyes for a moment. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to ask you just to follow along with me. Be still and know I am God. Together. Be still and know I am God. Take a breath. Be still and know I am God. Be still and know I am God. And as you breathe, relax your body and bring into your awareness the image, the sense of someone, living or dead, that you have a resentment for. Someone who has caused you pain. Just feel their presence in your mind. This person you have resentment for. Now gently, just as an experiment in truth, invite that person from your mind into your heart. Feel their approach to your heart and notice whatever blocks their approach. It could be fear, anger, or distrust. Notice the blocks to the entrances of your heart, and just for this moment, let this person through. Let them into your heart, this person you have resentment for. And in your heart say, I forgive you. I forgive you. It is painful to put someone out of your heart. So for this moment, let them back in. Whisper to them silently in your heart, I forgive you. I forgive you for whatever you may have done that caused me pain in the past. Intentionally or unintentionally, through your words, through your action, even through your thoughts. However you hurt me, I forgive you. However you hurt me, I forgive you. Let go. Take a breath and let it go. It is painful to hold on to the resentment. Let it go. Have mercy on you. Forgive them. I forgive you for whatever you may have done that caused me pain in the past, intentionally or unintentionally, causing me pain through your confusion, through your distrust, through your anger. However you cause me pain, I forgive you. I forgive you. Allow them to be touched by the possibility of your forgiveness, by your mercy, by your kindness. Forgiving them, let them back into your heart. I forgive you. I know that just as I wish only to be happy, so do you. I forgive you your ignorance, your fear, your pain. I forgive you. Now, having been touched by the possibility of your forgiveness, let them go on their way. Bid them farewell for now. Perhaps even touching them with a blessing as they depart. Take a breath and let them go. Now, invite into your heart, your mind, someone, living or dead, who has or had resentment for you. Someone that has put you out of their heart. Someone who has judged you. Someone you have caused pain. And just invite them in. Let them into your heart for this moment, for this experiment in forgiveness. Let them in, this person who has resentment for you. Let them in. And notice what blocks their entrance to your heart. Your fear, your anger, your shame or guilt. Just notice what blocks or limits forgiveness. No judgment. And invite this person into your heart. And in your heart, say to them, I ask your forgiveness. I ask your forgiveness. However I may have hurt you, intentionally or unintentionally, through my confusion, through my fear, however I may have caused you pain, I ask now that you forgive me. I ask to be forgiven. Take a breath and let it in. Let it in. Allow yourself to be free of it. Have mercy on you. Have mercy on you. I ask your forgiveness for whatever I may have done that caused you pain, through my forgetfulness, through my selfishness, through my fear. However, I could not contain my pain and spilled it out on you. I ask for your forgiveness. forgive me now. So allow yourself to be touched by the possibility of their forgiveness, by their mercy, by their healing, and let it in. Allow yourself to be forgiven. Feel their forgiveness as a warmth, as a mercy in your heart. Let them forgive you so that you might forgive yourself. Now let them go. Let them be on their way as you take a breath. And turn into yourself in your heart and say to yourself, I forgive you. Have mercy on you. You've been carrying this baggage for so long, this self-negation, this ruthless self-judgment. Have mercy on you. Say, I forgive you to you. Whatever parts of yourself you have judged and pushed away, you have abused, let yourself back into your heart. Let yourself be embraced by your mercy and loving kindness. And now quietly in your heart, say to yourself, I forgive you. I forgive you. Let your mind, your body, and your heart be filled with mercy for yourself and for everyone else too, who wants only to be free of their pain, wants only to be at peace. Now let this mercy, this forgiveness expand out into the universe to touch all beings everywhere, on every plane of existence, seen and unseen. May they be free of suffering. May they be at peace. And so it is. So how many of you had trouble with that, forgiving someone, letting them into your heart? How about forgiving yourself? You know, I've learned over the years that we're our worst judges. I'm my worst judge. I look at some people and I think, I don't know how they do it. They seem so happy. But somebody wise once said to me, never judge your insides by somebody else's outsides.
Oh.
And we do that.
Yeah.
So, take a breath, breathe in and breathe out, and let's say thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.